I'm joined now by the former U.S. ambassador to NATO, Ivo Daalder. He's also the co-author of the book, The Empty Throne, America's Abdication of Global Leadership. You can take from that subtitle the message of that book. Ambassador, thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
My pleasure, Jim.
So Biden will deliver a very different message from Trump, and words matter. Trump very publicly questioned key underpinnings of the NATO alliance, whether it was necessary, whether the mutual defense aspects of it stood firm today. Biden is saying the right things. In your view, is he proving that to NATO allies?
Well, of course, a security commitment is at the core, like NATO, the commitment to defend Europe and for Europeans to defend the United States is at its core something that resides in capabilities and intentions. The capabilities are there. We have significant forces in Europe. We have, since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, moved more forces forward to the eastern borders of NATO. But it's also about intention, and intention mattered. Donald Trump, of course, famously said that NATO was obsolete, argued that NATO was a transactional relationship in which our presence needed to be paid for by European forces rather than something that was in our interest. Here, Biden comes and says, no, NATO is not only essential, it's core to who we are. We would have to create it even if it didn't exist. That matters.
Mm-hmm. And certainly the contrast to Trump's words. I want to talk about Russia because you have this meeting on Wednesday. I'll be there covering it, among others. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the Biden-Putin meeting, the intention is the following, and I quote, is a beginning of testing the proposition, the question of whether Russia is interested in a more stable and predictable relationship and finding areas to work together. Every of the last several administrations has come into office, from Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden, and said, I can get this right. I'm going to find a way to get this right. The one consistency has been Russia remains a hostile actor. I mean, for instance, look at the cyber attacks, which continue right into the Biden administration. Is it worth even testing that, right? I mean, or is the Biden administration likely to face the same disappointment again?
Well, it's worth testing the question whether there are any areas in which we might be able to work together. Even in the depths of the Cold War, in the 1960s and 1970s and 1980s, American presidents reached out to their Soviet counterparts in order to find areas in which they could work together. And they did. They did on arms control. They did on controlling nuclear weapons. They did on finding ways to avoid wars that neither side wanted to fight, and a number of other areas, even as they were competing in a Cold War-like fashion, spying on each other and doing all kinds of things in which confrontation was the core of the relationship. And so I think Biden is coming to this with his eyes wide open, knowing full well that Vladimir Putin is set to continue his disruptive behavior, disruptive of the internal processes, economic and political, of the United States and our allies, disruptive of NATO and our relationship with allies around the world. And at the same time, testing the proposition, are there areas like arms control, like strategic ability, maybe climate change, where we can say, listen, despite all our differences, let's work together.
Okay. But on the negative side of the ledger, right, Russian hostile activities remain. Does the Biden administration have a strategy to deter that in a way that'll work? Because deterrence under Trump, Obama, Bush didn't work.
Well, that's going to be the challenge, right? Both in terms of Russia's external behavior, cyber and other attacks, and of course its internal behavior, which is totally unacceptable, where it's just banned the opposition, and Putin has just said that he doesn't even know whether Navalny will come out of prison alive. This is remarkable kind of statement. So I think Biden will come in and make very, very clear that that kind of behavior will continue to be unacceptable to the United States. And one of the challenges for U.S. policy, working with our allies, I imagine this is one of the issues very high on the agenda in the meeting in Brussels, is to say, what steps are we willing to take collectively to increase the price on Vladimir Putin for this kind of behavior?
I want to ask about one ally because President Biden will meet with the leader of Turkey, Erdogan, today. Turkey Because a NATO ally doesn't behave like one in a lot of ways, including buying a missile system from Russia in direct violation of the NATO treaty. I mean, is Turkey today still a NATO ally? Is it a U.S. ally? What is it?
Well, it is an ally formally in the sense that it's still a NATO member, and as a result, is part of the alliance. It is, of course, and has been behaving in ways that raise real questions about its commitment to the alliance along the lines that you mentioned. But there are other areas where we're working together. For example, Turkey has played an extraordinarily important role in our entire mission in Afghanistan. They have taken the security of the Kabul airport as well as Kabul region for many, many years. And we used to fly our AWACS, NATO AWACS aircraft, these early warning aircraft, out of Turkish bases over Afghanistan. So the meeting here is to see, can we come back to some fundamentals in which we can cooperate. Erdogan is coming, in this case, from a position of weakness. His economy is in shambles. The pandemic has been devastating for the country and for its people. And so he's looking to reset the relationship, and Biden may provide the opportunity to do so.
Ambassador Ivo Daalder, thanks so much for giving us some perspective this week.
My pleasure. Thank you.